Hey everyone, welcome back to Sydney Reefing. Carrying on from our last episode, I'm here with Ehsan from Triton, and he's going to give us a little bit of a rundown on why he thinks that the hobby's important and a little bit of his background in the hobby. And yeah, so what do you do, Ehsan?
Well, yeah, thank you for having me,
No, thank you.
Ellie. We obviously are a very scientific company in this whole industry, and what we do is we care for the water. So realistically, we kind of created the perfect habitat for a coral in a closed system, and that's what people want from us. So that's what we sell. We look if the water, there is any problems for the coral, like really down to the trace elements. So it's a very chemical kind of thing. A lot of people know what we obviously doing, but we have labs around the world, and people send in water to us, and we check it for them, and then we fix it. So we have chemicals and stuff to fix that, and that was kind of a very unique approach to our industry when we started this like 18 years ago.
And as you know, like there's been a big push recently to sort of stop the wild harvest of corals and stuff, which we can all see the value in. Like we all love the ocean. Like you were just showing me photos before of how you're going out into the reef and you love showing your family, and you want that to be here for generations to come as well. But on the other side of that, there's also this whole industry that relies on that wild harvest, and there are ways it can be done more sustainably. But just so you can give our audience sort of an idea, like how does wild harvest and collection like affect your business? Like, and you're telling me before about when you first started this business, like it's going back a long time, but give us a bit of a rundown of like how you got into this industry, like what inspired you to start this company?
Yeah, that's like a long question, but I'll just go. Don't worry, man. It's all right. So yeah, when you look at, I understand the wild harvest thing and stuff, but for my company, I'll take myself out of it, or my company out of it. If you look at it from another perspective, it's actually not necessary for us to have wild harvested coral, because for us it would be better if people grow them in the tank because they use our product, right?
It would be.
so it's like sometimes they're like, oh, and they will say, no, let's just let them do that. And nowadays there is a lot of people, even in America, especially in America, they have big systems and they all run these raceways, we call them, and they grow corals. So because when, like you say, I'm out there very often. I mean, we're the only ones doing scientific work for trace elements and stuff like in this industry, and realistically turn that into knowledge and then give that on as a product, and so our customers are very happy and successful, but we learn from the ocean, right? So I'm out there all the time. I have 4 kids and I love the ocean, I love that stuff. But if you look at it, like I say, just to take me out of it, I don't need that.
No, you don't, no.
But I think the world needs it, right? And I think it's a very, very important thing. If you look at all the industry behind, everything, like the little shop that sells the coral, the big, company that actually go and harvest them or collect them, and it's also not like we collect, like all the corals are interesting. If you look at my tank here, it's all like pink and purple and all colored coral. But when you go out there, you know that that's not the truth.
No, lots of brown.
It's 90% brown, isn't it? And they don't touch that coral, right? They really specifically go for the ones that are interesting for the end customer. There's a lot of like little facets you need to look at, right? And I can go through a lot of them. But I think the main one, when you look at, an animal or a habitat that you want to save from something, in a world that we are right now, growing and growing, and there's less and less space. The thing you need to think about is, why should somebody care? And I think a lot of people miss that point, right? So I'm a refugee. So I'm a refugee from Iran, and my family refugeed in the war to Germany, and I grew up in Germany. And I'm doing this hobby since I'm 12 years old, right? So that's
how old?
10 years
you don't
ago.
have to say me.
That's 10 years ago. No, so that's a long time ago, over 30 years ago, right?
30 years.
And and so the way I came to the hobby is exactly what you need to think of when you try to save the reef, right? Because I was growing up in a big city in Cologne, and I was driving with a train to my school, and I was 11 years old, 12, right? And when I walked from the train station to my school, so on the way from the train station to my school, there was a shop, a marine aquarium shop. Right? And that's the way I got into understanding what a coral is.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's telling you that. Not my biology teacher in Germany doesn't know what a coral is.
Yeah,
right?
that's how I got into corals. Like that's the whole I used to be a tradie and I kept coral reefs, and then I turned into a scientist.
That is what I mean. So you end up, if you take that away, nobody in America, like maybe just in Florida somewhere, but they're losing out on corals too. Like we support them too, right?
Yeah.
All these people would not have that surface will be gone. So you don't have people really knowing what a coral is. And I still know, I know so many aquarists that know more about coral than somebody working here on one of the reef boats, you know?
I learned way more just looking after my own corals, because like you hear every day, you see how little changes affect them.
Exactly.
I learned way more here than I ever did at uni. Like
there is a care for them. So we and me possibly freaks, you would say, like coral freaks, you know?
Thank you.
But this is the point, right? But the question is, though, who would spend money?
Yeah.
Who would put effort up, like get a bit of effort done to save a coral if he doesn't know what it is?
Yes.
And like I say, no teacher will teach you that stuff.
No.
And if you go to you very much need to look at from a very objective kind of, let's say, scientific perspective. Most of the people come into Cairns, they're going to dive the reef, they go for the fish.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
The corals are just a backdrop, right? And there's this turtle, and there's this dolphin, and there's this whale, right? But they're just colored rocks somewhere. So even that will not help. No. A
lot of people go out on the reefs and they think that there's been bleaching out there because they're not really colourful, because they're not what they see on these picturesque postcard kind of things. Like and like there are thousands, I don't know the stats, but there are thousands and thousands of people in Australia alone that have these tanks. And you think about the small communities around them, like so their family, their friends that come over, and they would all take an interest in their tank. And so not only are you sort of learning about the reef, but you're inadvertently telling, like, we're all marine educators in a way.
Exactly. And I tell you, I believe that most of the knowledge from coral towards the normal person out there is carried through this hobby. It is not carried through anything else, because there is no school teaching you that. There is even not universities that will just go for coral. So you need to be very specifically going somewhere and say, I want to learn about coral. And that is only happening because there is a surface of contact, and that surface might be your uncle having an aquarium, might be the shop on the way to the school. And if you look at Australia, this is even like, we have the Great Barrier Reef. But if you look at central Germany, where I'm from, our state already has like 18 million people, right? So if you look at Mexico City, I mean, listen, that these people, if I go on the street and say, do you know what a coral is? They will most of them will say that's a color. It's a pinkish color.
Yeah, that's right.
No, so I think without, and there's more to it, but I think really if you want to drain it down to where's the point of contact, what is a coral? It's not just a backdrop for a diver to make a picture from a turtle. If we lose this industry, there's no care for them anymore.
And I think that leads on to the next point, that like the industry, the aquarium coral industry in Australia has really sort of taken a dive after COVID, because keeping corals is a luxury. Like it's expensive. Like you got to buy the setup, you got to maintain it, you got to you know all about that. So like the industry's really taken a hard hit. So there's less people that have corals, there's less people that have aquariums now. So then we're also losing that area of engagement with public. And coral collection, like whilst ideally it would be perfect to have it all aquacultured, it is super, super expensive, and we're only just beginning to develop the technology or the techniques to breed them. Like Monsoon Aquatics are doing a lot of breeding with their corals and stuff, but at the same time, there's the cost of it. If we were to take away wild aquaculture, wild collection completely, it would astronomically drive up the prices.
Yes, it will, and it will.
And we also lose a lot of stuff like live rock and everything like that. So there's a lot of nuances in it which I think need to be taken into consideration.
For our biological system, for example, without live rock, it wouldn't work. I'm telling you, this is going to make things so much harder. But yes, if you look at it, you know, Australia is nice because Australia is little, but America is so big, right? So if you look at like America should be stopping the wild caught, then it would be kind of maybe, but it's so less like that, and also the type of animal. Like look at it, okay? It's so I have my own boat. I have my own research boat, so we can go out. But even we find new things all the time. For a scientist that is sitting there, and a young scientist that is doing a PhD somewhere in Ames, a collector is needed. If he wants a coral, he will go to a collector and say, please get me that coral. If you send him alone out there, he will take 10 years to find that coral.
So we have a lot of permits and stuff at our university to collect coral, so we can go out. But it's way too expensive for us to get up there, and it's too hard trying to get permits as well. So we just use collectors to get corals.
Look, my science is self-funded because I can use the ability to sell a product to then fund my science. And I'm not funding only my science. So when my company is worldwide, right? So what we do, we're doing that for 18 years. We work with all the people in Florida. We work with all the people on the Maldives. We work with a lot of people here, CSIRO. Everybody is kind of testing with us. We do a lot of things for in Tasmania, the university there, they grow like lobster, tropical lobster in Tasmania. No, that's very Australian. But and then you have, but also Indonesia, for example. And you know, when I was young, I went to Indonesia and to Bali once, and there was not that many people in Bali back then, and I saw that they go in to the reef with a cat and you know, grab your corals, put them on the beach, let them die. I was smelling like I was so bad.
So bad,
and then they crush them afterwards and build blocks out of them to build houses. So that's what people will see value in if we
take away the value.
Of the exactly. Corals, and then Vincent Chalier, you know Vincent Chalier, a good friend of mine. He started to mariculture corals, which is even easier than wild collection. Just to let you know, like things will go. It's like wild collection is like going into the jungle and try to find a wild pineapple. Like this is not business, you know. But if you have pineapples growing there next to your house, that's so. This is how he did it. He went to mariculture. The laws allow it. That's fine. There's other laws here which are making sense. But then he gave this coral another value, a money value. And then people start selling this coral and make the houses out of concrete, which is, you know what I mean? And I think people forget that, or maybe are too young to know these things, and they just forget about the way it works, you know, in this world. And it's about knowing something. If you don't know it, you won't protect it.
Exactly, And it's the same thing, like we place a certain value on the Great Barrier Reef. I forget what it is. So I know it's over $50-something billion. And that comes from a range of things, like it's icon value, tourism value, but also like fisheries value as well. So you look at like how much coral Australia exports around the globe. If we were to take that away, we're removing that value from the reef and therefore reducing the importance of saving it. Because at the end of the day, everything comes down to money, whether you like it or not. Like that's what it comes down to. And with the government giving out all these subsidies and everything like that for like the amount of money they give AIMS and all that.
So you ask yourself the question: why is the German government not paying 400 billion a year to save the reef? It's because nobody in Germany cares about the reef. You know, like this is the reason. Here, people care for it because there's money in it, because there's tourism in it. There's, you know, it's not because of the coral industry. They do it because of the divers. So politically, this is the reason. The money flows where the interest of the people is, and when you take the hobby out, we take the biggest interest out. In the year, somebody can possibly do 2 dive trips, or maybe 1. In America and come all the way to Australia for it, but he can't have an aquarium all the time.
Exactly, yes.
You know, so and then he can show that to his kids because his kids can't go scuba diving. and this is the way it kind of works. So from a perspective of a coral, that's the best thing it can happen. You know, like, this is the best thing that it has that, let's say, that stage.
Exactly.
You know, and you won't have a stage for a coral at all if you take that away.
And do you think it's possible for the industry to sustain itself if we remove wild culture, wild collection completely? Do you think at the current stage we are at with aquaculture and everything, do you think it's...
Not for a long time.
Not for a long time.
And that is because of the brown coral.
Yep.
You know, that's because it doesn't hurt. Look, when you go out there, like we said, 90% of brown, 90% are not going to be collected at all. You know, like it is more likely that a brown coral will be hit by an anchor that somebody would collect it, because nobody really would do that. Nobody would buy that.
And with the collection quotas as well, I think they're allowed to take 160,000 tons a year of coral, but that's including things like live rock and stuff like that. And often when collectors bring it in, I'm going to talk to a few collectors about this, but they bring it in and they actually hack off a lot of the dead stuff. So it's not 160,000 tons of living coral. But at the same time, like what you're saying about they're not collecting the brown stuff, I also see the reason that they're saying that we're targeting specific corals and therefore we're removing diversity on these reef systems. So I think there are ways that we could do it more sustainably. But what a lot of groups now are trying to do is come out with blanket rules saying that we should not collect anything.
Yeah, that is the death of what a reach. They will shut down the information flow, and nobody will give it. Anybody out there no American would care about the reef anymore. That's not a way it works. So we should go out. We should educate. That's the main thing. And education through this will work because it's a hobby, and education through hobby works always. Believe me, I'm doing that 18 years long, right? It works magic. But that point of diversity, 160 ton or whatever,
not much.
That's nothing. If one of them can swim from one side of Arlington Reef to the other, this is one reef out of 2,000 something. Like, hey, if we go out there, if I go with the boat and just go 200 kilometers up, right, that whole reef look totally different. There will be reefs that never have seen a human being before. I'm just telling you. Like, because we are here in Cairns, there's a lot of boats. It's a city. It's not even a big city. And Townsville will be the next one. But in between, it's a total different world. And when you look at all the fishing boats, let's say that, they do exactly that. They go where nobody is because there's a big fish still and everything, right? So now you need to be realistic about it. You need to balance the stuff that you take away from yourself, the information, the education, the creation of freaks like us that do things like that. You know, I mean, nobody would know about vanadium if I wouldn't be there now. Right?
Exactly.
So, and then you need to balance that with what I want to protect. And I think all of this go hand in hand. If you try to cut out one piece, and I'm not saying that somebody taking the position of protection is exactly also needed in this, like the guy that is going out there and do it for living and collect corals because he knows where they are, he knows all this information, and without all this it wouldn't work at all. So I wouldn't be here. Like, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be here. And then if I wouldn't be here, all these guys in Europe and America try to reproduce coral. So I mean, I have a paper with Jamie Craigs that is about sexual reproduction. And they are building all the sexual reproduction hubs everywhere. If you look at that, all this wouldn't have ever happened if it wasn't about this shop next to my school.
Exactly.
That's it.
And like what we were saying before about the economy, like the current economy, like I know I used to work at aquarium shops. I know like a lot of people are going through struggles, and a lot of them are removing their marine systems completely because they're just not selling enough. So I think it is important, and I think we should be focusing on future applications in aquaculture and trying to get that sexual reproduction, but there's also an importance with wild collection that we just can't replicate in aquaculture as well. Like we can't develop, we can't make live rock. Like that takes years and years and years of culture out in the ocean to get all the little organisms and microbiome and stuff.
It's also about the corals itself. You know, there's corals you would not, like
Like corals have microbiomes as well.
Yes.
So if you go put them in an aquaculture system, it's going to have a completely different microbiome.
Exactly, and you have all, and it's all, these corals are all wild. So wild means they stay wild. The way of a coral reproducing. So if you actually go in there and cut it off, right? I just say, listen, we're doing this together. We're going to dive, and I cut the coral off, and I take that part up. That part that is still on the rock is genetically the same coral, and it's still there. Yeah. So you actually not killed it. It's not like we go there and kill a goat. Yes. And then it's, you know, that's not the case. So they're still there, and they still grow back.
Yeah.
So you really didn't, you call that fragging, right? So we really do not take the whole, it's a colony. You don't take one animal and kill it or whatever, or bring it away, and then it's still genetically the same, still there. So you really do not take any diversity. But also, if you do not do that, then it's still a hobby. So you take a lot of new corals, new things, like these little things, like a polyp is blue, it freaks things, right? But coral is blue and not white on a green coral, and you're like, wow, I have this one with the blue one. And people really care so much for this coral.
They pay a lot of money.
They make a lot of, and cut pieces of it, and then they go all around, and they call them already like Oregon torch. And it's not from Oregon, because in Oregon there is no reef in Oregon, right? So, you know, because there is a guy in Oregon that imported it, and that's so funny, but it is actually a very good thing, because money, interest is created. And that flows back to us, that these people they have a dream, they have one dream, to come to Australia to dive the reef, to look at the corals.
Exactly.
And it's different, and if you don't have that, a lot of things will break away. That's what it is, you know.
Everything has flow-through effects, doesn't it? So it's easy to say, yes, it's, in an ideal world, if there wasn't any industry attached, yes, of course we want to stop coral collection, like they're taking corals out of the ocean. And I agree, like it collectively can impact the recovery rates of reefs sometimes, maybe, but I think there are ways we can go around it, like maybe not collecting whole colonies, like being selective where we collect. But what a lot of people fail to understand is that the coral collection industry in Queensland with fisheries is one of the most regulated in Australia. Like they have rules on where they can collect, they have trigger warnings for things. So whilst nothing's ever perfect and things can always be done better, I think all this hype around the collection thing is good, because it will make people sort of rethink a lot of their strategies in terms of collecting, how it can be done more sustainably. But I think it will also highlight the importance that the coral collection industry has on our hobby as well.
And think about it, these people make money with it. They don't want to mess up. They want this to happen all the time.
And a lot of like the two main coral collectors I know, like Cairns Marine and Monsoon, they've been going for decades. Like they've got kids and stuff. Like, and they're going to want to keep going for generations.
No, I agree. I think it's kind of that mixture that people do not realize when they first encounter. It's like, I don't know what a coral is, but protect them. Okay, but you know, like this is not a way. Like we actually all protect that reef. It's not. I'm always afraid to go, like you said, the fisheries to go, and I'm collecting water samples, and I'm like, oh my god, the next guy will come up and just search the boat, because they do, you know. But it's the right way, and I'm really saying one thing. Australia is doing so good in that. I've seen Indonesia, I've seen a lot of other countries, and even America, they're so loose with their rules, you know. It's good for me as a scientist because I can do whatever I want there, but I mean, it's somehow not good for the environment, and you can see the problems, you know. So, they lost a lot these last years, you know, like, so it's kind of, you know, I think, kind of putting a bit of that curtain away to open up their minds, that would be better than just go shut. And I
think too, the dangerous thing about this campaign is like, obviously, like it's important, like, and collecting corals does take coral away from the reef, but that is not the main threat that the reef is facing at the moment. And a lot of people seeing this are going to see and think, oh, the coral collection industry is destroying our reef. That is not the case. It might be slightly contributing to some of the degraded sites at the very worst case scenario, but it is not the reason the reef is dying. Ultimately, like reduction in fossil fuels, climate change, pollution, all that sort of stuff is collectively way more destructive. Like you get a school of parrotfish on the reef, and they take almost more coral than the whole collection industry.
True.
So
And also you can see that, like live, see that if you look at the world, they lost so much coral in Florida, like I said, like it was devastating. And there was nobody collecting coral there. Like there is no coral collection honestly there. They don't do that because there is no real coral that they can collect too much. So
they've lost a lot of all that biodiversity.
It's gone, and it's no coral collection there. So the focus should be on something else. But what I like is that these things bring up discussion again, and it brings the focus onto the right thing. Brings the focus on coral because people don't think about coral. I'm sorry, but you know, in even here in Cairns, when I'm saying, I'm a coral scientist, they're like, oh, right. Like, what?
It's a very niche area,
you're
isn't
a geologist? Like you work with rocks, they're colored. They say, nah, you know, like, like you say, like, and do that in Germany. They'll just, I don't know what they think, but it's just not, I don't know. It's just, I like that situation. So a spotlight is always good. This is a negative kind of spotlight. It's not a nice thing, but if the person or the guys that are doing the things then enter the discussion, it helps.
Exactly,
It helps.
Anyway, thank you so much for having a discussion with me.
No worries.
And letting me see your beautiful tank. I'll be up again soon to
go and have a beer now.
And we've already had a few. No, thank you very much.
No worries, Andy. Have a good one.
See you next time.
Take care.